What's up? Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to talk about how you can get ahead of most people by just doing focused work for 1 to 2 hours a day, and not even just the fact of getting ahead of people, but how you can just get ahead and make improvements for yourself and be better than you were yesterday. You don't need anything fancy. You just need to be consistent. The thing you got to understand, guys, is that your attention is a currency. Even to watch this video, it is valuable for me to have your attention, and your attention is more valuable than you actually think. For everybody, the entire world is trying to get your attention, guys, hence why social media apps are literally designed to keep you scrolling for hours and hours, and then you can get exposed to ads. They also will tell you your screen time on your phone is to make you aware of these things, because it has become an issue where people can literally just scroll for hours and hours and literally put off things that they need to be doing in life just because they want to watch memes and videos, and because these videos are so stimulating to our brain that people just want to keep scrolling. And there's a reason to keep you scrolling. It's because they want your attention. They want to fill your minds with stuff that they want, and they want you to buy their products. Honestly, this phrase goes around so much that we don't have enough time. But the thing that I want you guys to take away from this video, amongst many other things, is you just got to be honest with yourself. You got to sit down right now and you got to think. Some things do require time, whether it's routine things or emergencies, of course, but some things are really just wasting our time. So is there a way that, instead of saying that we don't have enough time, is there a way that we can sit down, look at how we spend our time, and then try to figure out what we can shift our time on, off of things that don't matter and then onto things that do matter and things that we want to improve on? You got to understand that most of your life is actually a habit, from getting home to taking off your shoes, to then the first thing that you do if you go to eat, if you go to sit down and watch TV, if you go to spend time on your phone. What we do is very habitual, and we have to fight against forming a new habit and also breaking our old self. So we almost have to fight against a double whammy and making it twice as hard to actually become the person that we want to be and make changes in our life. So you got to make them slow. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to overcome that double whammy like I was talking about before. And it takes time to form the habit, so you got to be patient. Make sure you're working on your goals each and every day, or every other day at least, for a little bit of time, even if it's not a long time, because one, it counts, and two, if you don't work on your goals that you have, then somebody's going to give you goals to work on that are theirs. So the choice is yours. And it can be a mixture. You can work on somebody else's goals while you're also working on your own goals, until you become financially free to the point where you can just work solely on your goals. And that should be, you guessed it, your goal, if it is. So small changes compound over time. Really, I'm taking a lot of information from Atomic Habits by James Clear, and also from Dan Coe, talking about, the focused work and also working on your own goals, because somebody else will give you their goals to work on. So hence blah, or not blah, but hence bam, 1 to 2 hours of work. Sometimes you're going to be able to do more because you're more amped up. You're feeling a little bit more excited. You're feeling a little bit more whatever. And also maybe you just have more time in your day for whatever reason that day. You have less obligations that require your time, so you're able to spend it more on things that you want to do. 1 to 2 hours of focused work, guys, will get you so much further ahead than just filling up a bunch of time to get work that could have been done sooner. So 4 hours of working doesn't mean that you did stuff. It's what you did when you had the time to work. So keep that in mind. It's not the amount of time that you spend. It's really the efficiency of your work. So if you only give yourself 1 to 2 hours of work and it's focused, then you're most likely to get more things done, and you're not likely to fill up the time with the work. Instead, you fill up work with your time, because you're more focused on completing tasks, and you're more focused on just getting ahead and being focused, as opposed to, I have to work for a certain amount of time to feel like I worked for the day. Less work also makes you not feel overwhelmed, and you're more likely to be consistent with it day to day, instead of feeling overwhelmed thinking, oh man, I got to sit down if I work because I got to work for 4 hours. Or you could be like, oh, I just have to put in a little bit of time and then I'm done. You're more likely to be a lot more consistent, knowing that you're not going to be overwhelmed, having to sift off a ton of time per day to focus on working. So a big thing that I want to like really make kind of known for you guys is just how you spend your time. You just got to be aware of what you're doing on your day-to-day basis, because you can only change something if you're aware that it's going on and that you are aware that it's a problem. And it's really going to take time. So I really want to just like encourage you guys to have consistency and to have patience, really. And personally, just for you guys to know, I'm sure you kind of know by, obviously I'm a small channel. I'm trying to improve my YouTube videos, trying to improve my YouTube channel, and I'm also trying to improve my writing and speaking. And I'm using this method to improve these things. And I've also used this method to achieve things in my past that has made me been able to achieve them, whereas the previous method of chunking off a large amount of time to work and make myself work consistently with large blocks of time made me less successful. And I found that this method made me more successful, because again, if you're feeling like you can do more work that day, then you can by all means do more work, but it's a minimum time that you set that's lower, so that you have the ability to not feel overwhelmed and just to get more work done, because you only have a little bit amount of time to work, so you're going to be more focused. So long-term results. So this is something that I like to think, because you're in this for the long game. You're in this for long-term results after whatever you want to get, and just the long-term results of achieving goals that you set one after another. When you achieve one and then you move on to the other one, you got to think of it like this. If you set that you have to work 4 hours, and because you know that you have to work that much, you feel overwhelmed, and you only work, let's say you start off super motivated, like how everybody starts off, and you're like, okay, I'm going to put in the work, and you do that for a few days, and then you end up working a little bit less the third or fourth day. Then the fifth day, you're like, I'm kind of tired, so I skip. And then the next week, maybe you only do 1 or 2 days again, and then you skip. And then eventually, after a month or 2 months, depending on how motivated you were to start out, all of a sudden, guys, you are fallen off. And if you look at the amount of months, let's say 3 months, you worked X amount of hours. Well, if you compare that to you working 1 to 2 hours a day minimum, even with not extra hours worked, most likely over that course of the 3 months or whatever X amount of time, long-ish term, especially when you run this over the course of years, if you're trying to like achieve goal after goal after goal, you're going to find that you spend actually quite a lot more, like exponentially more time working if you work a little bit, but more consistently. So if you're looking at the long game, guys, you have to just trust the process that this works and just give it a try, because in the long run, you actually end up working for more time overall, and you're also more focused during that time. So it's a double whammy of positivity, whereas before it was kind of like a double whammy of things to fight against. So yeah. And just to kind of further illustrate this point, guys, if you had this perfect 1.5 hour workout routine, and I don't know how many of you guys have experienced this, because I had definitely experienced this in the past, and sometimes I still struggle with trying to navigate through this. But if for whatever reason you're, only able to work out for a short period of time, whether you don't have as much time or you just don't feel like it, or you're a little bit injured and you're trying to recover around your injury and you can only spend a little bit of time in the gym, if you have to do a certain amount of exercises for an hour and a half, you might just think that that's too much and you might just skip for the day. Whereas otherwise, you could have just went in and just did 30 minutes, done half the amount of exercises, but maybe done a couple of extra sets, rest a little bit less, and just at least get in there for 30 minutes and push yourself. Well, guys, the thing that you have to realize is that you're going to have so many of these days in your life. If you add up all these sessions over the months and years of your life, you would not believe how much results you're leaving on the table if you didn't do this method. You're leaving a lot of results on the table, guys. If you do the method of small, consistent work, you look back and you will see how much the work has added up. Even when it seemed like it wouldn't in the short term, you'd be amazed how much it adds up over time. Trust me on that. So process. So honestly, for this to work, one, you have to believe in it, because you have to try it. And if you don't believe in it, you won't try it. And then you got to reflect, and guys, look at the proof in the pudding. Is there proof in the pudding? If there's not, then scrap it and scrap my advice and just say, this guy had no idea what he was talking about. And I guarantee that's not going to be the case. But just keep in mind that if you don't show up consistently, then you're going to fail. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to fail. But you're not failing if you show up and you improve. You're only truly failing if you quit. But on the flip side, is there really such a thing as failure? Because failure is kind of a made up construct. Really, if you're learning from your mistakes, then you're not really failing, because failure is only when you give in, you quit, you give up, you say, like, I can't do this anymore, and you just throw in the towel. That is failure. But making mistakes is not failure, guys. You can word it whichever way you want to word it, and really we're just kind of working on wordplay here, but you can say, oh yes, I have failures, but you don't fail if you don't quit. And really, honestly, you can't know what you don't know, guys. Like, first of all, if you've never heard of this method, or if you've heard of it and you never tried it, you don't even know if it works. So some things you got to give a try, but give things a try that makes sense overall, and that with common sense you can be like, well, there's nothing really to lose to try it. And if I try it, what have I got to lose? I had a healthy work-life balance. I put in work consistently. Like you got to think of this common sense wise. Like, is this something that you would have any negative side effects from? Like, not really. Like, if it wasn't as efficient, maybe you'd get a little bit less work done, but I'm not saying don't work. So you're still getting work done. So there's really no injury to trying this. Like, it's a good method to give a shot, because if it works for you and you realize that it's actually better than your old methods, well, then you just upgraded your life quite significantly, and you set your future self up for quite the success. And honestly, you're going to figure out a lot of things when you work. Quantity allows for quality. You have to be practical, and you have to let work build on itself. If you take two groups of people and one of them think about something over and over to try to create the perfect project, versus somebody working on it day after day after day and improving something each day, at the end of the 100 days, when that one person is ready to try the project versus the person that's been improving, the finished product after the 100 days of the person that's been improving day after day and actually doing the practical hands-on work will have so much of a better product, because they've been improving every single day. And when they encounter solutions, things that they don't even know that they know, things that they don't even know that they have as a problem, because they think of a different way to do things, and then they're like, oh, I don't actually know how to do this thing, so I need to learn how to. And then they solve this problem, and then they move on and they work, and then they encounter another problem because they want to improve a certain area, but they don't know what the solution is. They don't know how to, take a picture with this certain lighting, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so many things that you don't know that are problems that will become problems, because they're things that you want to find solutions to improve your work. So you're going to figure out a lot of this stuff, but you have to show up and be consistent and work and work and work for these to even arise as problems. So if you're not showing up and being consistent, you fall off because you're too overwhelmed with working too much per day, and then you get overwhelmed, and then you just kind of lose motivation and stop because you didn't have a good system in place, aka the 1 to 2 hours of work per day. Then you're not even going to encounter these problems, and you're not even going to find solutions, and you're not even going to build the thing that you wanted to build. So don't fall into that trap. Big thing, guys, your focus is limited every single day. Like, you kind of start, your brain is kind of like a battery. You sleep and you recharge, and then obviously if you get a good amount of sleep, you'll get to 100%. If you don't start at 100% in a sense, right? And then you drain that battery by the amount of focused mental work that you do. And then also you can look at your body as being a battery as well, because you can only do so much physical activity in a day. And you can run your battery past zero for your body in some cases, because then you got to recover from your workouts and stuff like that, or even if you get injured. But the thing is, if you start off and you just get focused work done, guys, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this, but in the long run, you do more work overall. And then also because you're more focused in that hour, because you're not dilly-daddling, because you're like, oh, I have 4 hours to do work. So you just kind of fill the time with that, like, work. You make the work fill that time, and instead you could have done it much quicker, but since you had 4 hours, you're like, oh, I got 4 hours to work. So your efficiency goes through the roof, guys. So you can get this work done, and then you can recharge and then get back to it the next day. It's hard to run your battery to empty and then recharge every day, run your battery to empty. It's not going to work out over the long run, but you will have days where you can do way more than 2 hours of work. And I encourage you to, because potentially you might have to on certain days for certain projects, depending on what you're doing. There's so much to factor in, but keep in mind, it's just a minimum, right? And when you have those days that you're feeling good, it doesn't hurt you and it doesn't drain you to put in those extra hours. So you just put them in, but then the next day you just have to show up again for a little bit of time. And because you're focused, it's easier to just get the work done in that session than to try to get it all done at once. And this is a message to all you procrastinators. You got to quit procrastinating. So here's a nice little breakdown for you guys to think about. So think about working 1 hour a day for 5 days a week. That's 5 hours weekly, 20 hours monthly, 240 hours per year. Or think of it like this, a little bit shorter term, 120 hours in 6 months. In 6 months, after 120 hours, you will be a new person. You will have some new skill that you honed in. Imagine, guys, this is not even taking into account the extra hours that you'll put in when you feel good and you work 4, 5, 6 hours a day, maybe several times a week, several times a month. You get what I'm saying? Guys, sit down and think how long it takes for a minute to pass. 60 of those is a minute, right? Another 60 of those is an hour, and the clock goes from 12 to 1 to 2 to 3. 120 hours, guys, that's so much time to achieve something. And we're talking about being focused, so it's efficient work. And the other thing that I didn't mention, but it's probably on one of these slides, is the fact that if you don't feel overwhelmed, you actually end up looking forward to your work so much better. And guys, that positive mood makes you also more efficient because you don't feel drained, you don't feel stressed, overwhelmed. You're looking forward to your work, so you're less stressed, you're feeling more joyful. And because of that, you're able to also be more fulfilled, more focused, and you're also able to get more work done. And you might even be able to increase your work output over time because you're feeling less drained, and you know that you can pull back, increase your work, pull back, increase your work, because your plan allows for that flexibility. So you're going to get so much done. The more that you do this and reinforce this, the more that you'll be able to have those longer days when you need to do them, because you very, very much so reinforce yourself as a person who is consistent and can work consistently. And it's just a recipe for success. It's just reinforcing good habits pretty much, right? Because most of our life, like I said before, is a habit. And stay tuned, guys, for a video that I'm covering next for one of these video breakdowns as far as like topics go, like long form content versus my shorts series. But I'll be showing you guys how I applied this work method to achieve straight A's and A pluses in my respiratory therapy program here in Canada. And I got just over a 4.0. It was close to a 4.05-ish. And the highest you can achieve, I believe, overall with straight A pluses is a 4.2. So I literally got, almost perfect GPA in a sense. And it was using this method. And I will show you guys how I broke that down. So stay tuned for that video. But in the meantime, hopefully this one served you guys well. And yeah. That's it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, and give this a try and let me know how it works. Leave a comment. All right. See you guys.